Welcome everyone to the Lord of Mysteries novel summary series on Ani Monolith. In the previous part, Klein, Alger, and Audrey convene in a mystical space created by Klein for a gathering. Justice is excited to receive the spectator sequence formula from the Hanged Man, who shares the formula and emphasizes the importance of carefully controlling potion dosages and practicing cogitation to avoid losing control. Then the Hanged Man warns Justice about the dangers of the spectator ability, which can detect emotions and thoughts but also risks pulling the user too deeply into others' feelings, leading to possible loss of control. After discussing important issues related to each person's interests, the gathering turned to any topics that the attendees wanted to mention. Then the Hanged Man told about a pirate calling himself Admiral Ludwell who began an exploration trip to the east of the Sonia Sea. Upon hearing Ludwell's name, Justice immediately asked if he was the owner of the Black Tulip ship and was confirmed by the Hanged Man. Then in the role of Mr. Fool as a person with extraordinary knowledge, Klein revealed that the Antigonus family's notebook in Epic 4 was lost. Upon hearing about this, the Hanged Man said that he was looking forward to Church Evernight Goddess's reaction. Klein was extremely curious as to why among the churches in this kingdom, only the Church Evernight Goddess was related to the diary. Was there some secret? However, he did not ask because he wanted to maintain his wise image. Luckily, Justice immediately asked about this and the Hanged Man replied that the Antigonus family was originally destroyed by the Church Evernight Goddess. Before this shocking information, Klein was extremely surprised. Because he was able to piece together the reason why Dunn Smith stubbornly invited him to work for the Nighthawks. The reason was not because he wanted to protect the safety of the witnesses who survived the massacre or discover that he had a talent for improvisation, but because for the Nighthawks as well as the Church Evernight Goddess, the family's lost notebook was lost. The Antigonus clan was closely related to them. Following the Hanged Man's information, it's Justice's turn, so she is concerned about a huge political trouble. Since the failure of the battle on Baalam's eastern shore, the king, premier, and gentlemen are under immense stress. They eagerly wish to change. As soon as he heard Justice speak, Klein was able to explain why there was such chaos within the government. Because with the original Klein's knowledge, he can realize the rudimentary nature of the government system in this world. Simply put, the government system here is like feudalism when power is concentrated in the hands of the emperor and the nobles, and the people could never change their lowly fate. So there will definitely be a lot of conflicts. Discussing the information that Justice just shared, Klein said that the solution to the disorder of the government system is extremely simple, which is to organize periodic recruitment competitions. Then through competitions, talented people across the country will be found, and they will have the opportunity to try their hand at the leading departments of the government system. Of course, Klein also noted to Justice that letting talented people with civilian backgrounds take positions in the government system needs to proceed slowly. Because if it changes too quickly, it will lead to riots by the nobles or rather the ruling class. When hearing Mr. S.'s solution, Fool, Justice was extremely excited because she really wanted to convey this to her loved ones. Of course that was also what Klein expected, because if Justice indeed had a prestigious background and could have influence over her family, then participating in competitions to become a government employee was something that would soon come true. That way, Klein can urge Benson to enroll and have the opportunity to become a government employee. However, Klein thought that Justice would not directly make this proposal under her family status. Because the Hanged Man can track down Justice's true whereabouts. But Klein thinks that Justice is perfectly capable of doing this without revealing his identity. Then Klein as Mr. Fool took the initiative to end the gathering. However, unlike last time, because this time he had become a Beyonder, Klein was fully capable of continuing to stay in the illusory space created by the mysterious fog. Klein even discovered that he could still contact another red star, meaning he could still summon one more person. However, Klein was in no hurry to do this because he was worried about what the third person's identity would be like, and this could potentially reveal Klein's true identity. So Klein will need more time to strengthen his abilities. Then after everything, Klein returned to his room and decided to research in depth the lost notebook of the Antigonus family as assigned by Dunn Smith. At the same time, at the Hall family's mansion in the Queen's District, Backlund City, Audrey immediately rewrote the formula for the spectator sequence. Of course, she took extremely clever notes so that no one could detect its abnormalities. She even disguised it as a piece of paper with a chemical formula. Audrey then thought about searching for potion ingredients, and she thought that if there were materials that were too difficult to find, she would ask for Mr. Fool and the Hanged Man at the next gathering. Of course Audrey will compensate the two of them accordingly. As for Alger, after returning to his room on the ghost ship, he was extremely confused about Mr. Fool, because no matter how hard he tries, he can't find any clues. Then Alger turned his attention to the ancient Hermes inscription written on a piece of parchment the content of which was 7 seafarers. After finishing the gathering, Klein immediately left the house to do his job, go to Welch's house for more information about the case. Before arriving at Welch's home, however, Klein went down Narcissus Street, then strolled around Iron Cross Street. At the familiar square, Klein suddenly remembered the animal trainer who had told him his fortune before. Klein believed that the girl had a certain purpose in guiding him, and after realizing that he had something special, she would meet him and provide hints about the future to him. However, contrary to this speculation, the fortune-teller girl no longer remained in the square area. Then while Klein was wondering and thinking, the familiar voice of Mrs. Wendy suddenly rang. So Klein entered Smyron's bakery and was invited to enjoy the new cake on the menu. While chatting with Wendy, Klein learned more information that she isn't a local like Klein. She is a southerner and came to Tingen with her husband. After ending the conversation and saying goodbye to Wendy, Klein felt lighter. Then he raised his hand and tapped the glabella twice to switch to spirit vision. With this ability, Klein was able to observe the auras of merchants and passers-by, and all he saw was a dense gray color. This gray color corresponds to repression, which is understandable because Klein has experienced a life full of difficulties and hardships like them. Klein then went to the old boarding house hoping to find the Antigonus family notebook that the original Klein had hidden. However, Klein didn't sense any abnormal existences. Everything in this place was the same as they all before. After the failed search, Klein was not too disappointed because he understood that finding extraordinary objects could not be as simple as what any normal person could do. On the contrary, Klein realized that spirits not only exist in the form of spirit bodies but also exist in spiritual form. And only the spirit medium can connect with them. After leaving the old boarding house, Klein went to the area where Welch's home was located, but he knew that Dunn and Daly had previously searched the house very carefully. So Klein only went over to observe if there was anything unusual around the area where Welch used to live, but did not go inside the house. Then while walking to the intersection, Klein suddenly saw a building with the sign Divination Club. Klein silently repeated the name and recalled that he had to act as a seer, so Klein walked in to ask about how to join. A girl with brown hair welcomed Klein and announced the rules to become a member of the Divination Club. Although the club's benefits were very good, Klein had to abandon the idea of becoming a member because the joining fee was too expensive. Then Klein asked what the fee would be if he wanted to have his fortune told. The brunette patiently explained to Klein that the fee to be paid depended on the divinationer's wishes. Then the girl introduced Klein to a few divinationers present at the club because today was Monday afternoon, so the members did not come in large numbers. After hearing the girl introduce the diviners, Klein decided to choose Glassy, a newly joined divination whose forte is tarot divination. And Klein chose Glassy not because there was any underlying reason, but simply because the price paid for Glassy was the lowest among the divinationers here. The girl then took Klein to meet Glassy. Klein's first impression of Glassy was very good because the other person had a very elegant demeanor. Glassy is about 30 years old, has dark skin, dark blue eyes, light blonde hair, wears a white shirt with a black vest, and hangs a pair of glasses on his chest. Then when he knew he had a guest, Glassy asked to use the golden glass room to practice. Glassy then asked Klein for a request and learned that he wanted to search for a dropped object. After hearing this request, Glassy immediately shuffled the tarot cards, then asked Klein to follow the instructions and then draw a card. Before withdrawing, Klein was asked to think precisely about the lost item, along with the question, "Will I find the item again?" However, Klein could not remember the shape of the notebook, but he still repeated in his mind that he wanted to find the Antigonus family's notebook again. Klein then followed Glassy's instructions, pulled out a card and looked at the direction of the pattern on it. Because if the pattern on the card is inverted, the item will not be found. If the pattern on the card is upright, Glassy will continue to shuffle the card to find its position. When Klein pulled out the card's pattern was in the opposite direction from Klein's perspective, meaning the item could not be found. However, what shocked Klein was not the unfortunate result he had just received, but the fact that the card he drew was the Fool. At that moment, Klein thought it could not be so coincidental, because he suddenly remembered about the Hanged Man, and old Neil said divination is the outcome of the communication of spirituality in the spirit world with a higher dimensional me. Tarot cards are only a convenient tool to read what the truth symbolizes. In theory, using any divination item doesn't matter as it doesn't affect the outcome. With a complicated mood, Klein asked Glassy if he wanted to know if the lost item had been taken by someone or not. Hearing that, Glassy was very interested and said that he could ask, and Klein only needed to perform the same operations as he had just done. Then when it was his turn to draw the card to see if it was positive or negative, Klein prayed that the card would not be the Fool. As he wished, this time this tarot card is not the Fool, but the Star, and it was inverted. Seeing that, Glassy explained that the item Klein was looking for had not been picked up yet. Then Klein paid Glassy the fee even though Glassy said he was free for the tarot reading this time. During the conversation, Klein tapped the glabella twice and observed Glassy. After leaving, Klein advised Glassy to see a doctor because he was at risk for lung disease. Klein's reminder surprised Glassy, but he didn't believe in this, so he decided to use tarot cards to check his health status. After leaving Divination Club, Klein was determined to save money to become a member here. Klein then went to Blackthorn Security Company, however he did not meet Roseanne as usual but instead Leonard. Seeing Klein's question, Leonard explained that Roseanne had gone to the armory to be on duty because this time it was her turn, so Leonard would temporarily be in the reception hall. Then Leonard proactively asked Klein if he knew the reason why Welch and Naya both committed suicide, while Klein survived and even returned home. Faced with this difficult question, Klein calmly replied that perhaps the murderer wanted him to find a place to hide the Anagonos family's notebook. However, Leonard still didn't seem satisfied with this answer, so he continued to ask why the killer didn't let Klein destroy the notebook right at Welch's house, but waited for him to get home, and then destroyed it, cancel it. In response to Leonard's question, Klein also had the same thought, because he did not know whether the notebook was hidden or destroyed. But whatever it is, the fact that the original Klein is still alive and returned from the scene is a huge doubt. Upon hearing Leonard's question, Klein instantly went into keyboard detective mode and said with a sigh, perhaps when Welch, Naya, and I made contact with the unknown existence, it enjoyed the sacrifice of life or wished for similar situations to continue. With the suicide easily discoverable, I was made to take away the notebook to hide it to prepare for the existence's second round of entertainment. However, some mishap happened during the process and I failed to succeed in my suicide. This speculation was formed from Klein's experience reading stories and watching detective movies while on Earth. Because these things often appear as motifs of sacrifice to the gods. However, in that sacrifice, a change occurred which was the appearance of Zhou who was Ice Guy to this world by borrowing the body of the original Klein. In response to Klein's speculation, although Leonard seemed to agree, he still made a different thought quite a good explanation, but I believe there might be other possibilities. Welch's and Naya's suicide sacrifice might have made it possible for the unknown existence to descend on this world. Then, that notebook is a vessel or a breeding ground for evil. It made you take it away to hide it, worried that we would destroy it if we discovered its birth before it became strong. When he heard what Leonard just said, Klein felt the other person's suspicion towards him. However, Klein must also admit that some of the possibilities that Leonard mentioned may correspond to the actual situation. The original Klein's body is a vessel or used for the brooding of evil, or what he's being a vessel for is a transmigrator. But brooding isn't a correct term. Then, in response to Leonard's doubts, Klein once again confirmed that his memory loss was true, and Dunn Smith and Daly verified and confirmed this. That's why Klein was very confused and asked Leonard why he still stubbornly assumed that he was the one hiding the secret about the massacre. When questioned by Klein, Leonard remained calm and replied that it was possible that when the sacrifice occurred, the unknown existence would borrow Klein's body as a vessel that was attacked, so Klein failed to commit suicide. This Leonard believes is likely to happen because the goddess always blesses her followers. The conversation between the two then came to an end, because Klein said he had to go to the armory to get more bullets. Then after Klein left, Leonard showed his dissatisfaction and muttered something into the air.